and Mr. Rob Panapinto, President of Florentine Strategies. Your timekeeper, gentlemen, is Molly Nardella. Molly, say hi. There you go. Yay, Molly. And she's going to have the time cards to hold up and let you know. And our moderator today is Scott Maxwell from the Orlando Sentinel. Thanks, Scott.
All right, it is a pleasure to be with you guys again. It has been a little while. I think it was a few years ago, the last time I was with Tiger Bay, actually in this room, it was a roast for Belvin Perry. The bad news is I'm back, but the good news is Frank Kruppenbacher's not. So you have that going for you. Today we are here for a debate among the candidates for Orange County Mayor. I have to tell you, I have covered all four of their predecessors, Linda Chapin, Mel Martinez, Rich Crotty, and Teresa Jacobs. Oddly enough, I have also ended up traveling with most of these. I went to Austin, Texas with Mel. I went to New York with Rich. And Teresa, with her, I feel like I've been to hell and back. So, and I can say that. I endorsed her. I mean, you write something about her and you will hear about it. Just ask Dick Batchelor. I don't know if he's here. So today, though, we are going to hear from the three men who want to be Orange County's 5th mayor, and we want to dive right in, so I'm going to go ahead and give you the rules. We have opening statements that are going to be 2 minutes. Then for each question, each candidate will get 2 minutes to respond. And if one candidate mentions another one in a way that warrants a response, the named candidate will get 1 minute to respond as well. And I want to say something to all three of these guys in the audience as well. 2 minutes is a long time, especially if you're not saying anything. The Beatles actually wrote songs that were less than 2 minutes. So don't feel like you have to use all 2 minutes of every question if you've already said what you need to. I may ask follow-ups if a candidate wanders off topic, and there's also going to be a timer. As we mentioned, Molly is going to be fearless in giving folks 30 seconds and 15-second warnings. All right, are you guys ready to get started?
Sure, for you.
Thank you, Rob. Yes, I think I am. And I want to give them all a big round of applause just for being here, because you people aren't always nice. I know that about you, and I think between you there may be 2 undecided voters in this room. So good luck. Good luck, gentlemen. Yeah, I don't know who they would be. They might be the guys with the cameras. All right, we are going to go ahead and start, and we're going to rotate who goes first, but we're going to start with the 2-minute opening statement with Sheriff Demmings.
All right, good afternoon to everyone. I feel like since we have paid individuals here, I feel like those of us who are candidates should participate in the sharing of the revenues today for our campaigns. But in either case, I'm Jared Demmings, and I am your sheriff here in Orange County. I'm honored to have served now for nearly the last decade. I'm proud of the fact because this is my home. This is where I was born and raised. This is where my family lives, from my 95-year-old father right down to my 3-year-old granddaughter. We are a family of public service here. Of course, I'm married. My wife serves in the United States Congress, and we have a son that serves with the Orange County Fire Rescue Department as a battalion chief, and so we give back to our community. Many people ask me, why am I running to be the next mayor in Orange County? And it's really simple. I'm just trying to continue my public service, which I have been involved in for the last 37 years, but take it really to another level. My goal and vision for this county is to really improve the lives of working class people here in this community, and at the same time continue to progress this community towards being the world-class community that I know that we can become. We have a lot of positives, a lot of things going well here with being the #1 tourist destination in our country. We have the #1 growth here in the state of Florida, and a number of other things that really makes us perfectly positioned to be a world-class community. I just simply want to be a part of it, and I can't do that without getting the assistance and the vote of the majority of the electorate here in Orange County. So I look forward to the discussion today. I look forward to the elections on about August the 28th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Scott. And again, thank you for having us here. I remember in 2012 when I was running for county commissioner and we had the debate at Tiger Bay. I thought that that was an excellent forum, and I won by 70 votes. So hopefully I got 35 of them there that day. And I'm counting on that today too. But I got reelected by almost 70%, District 3 Commissioner. I've lived here since the 60s. My dad was in the service. We're a military family, so we were in Europe and all over the country, moving every 3 years. So if nothing else, I'm resilient and I'm adaptable because you had to change your life every 3 years. And it gives you a perspective, I think, on what you can do as an elected official and as a person. I have a degree in marine biology from the University of West Florida, a degree from Florida State, master's degree in public health and education, a master's from Rollins in management. I was a medical service corps officer in the Florida Air National Guard for a number of years. So, of course, went through numerous Air Force training. So, from an educational standpoint, I'm poised and ready. But I think what I really want to impart, and my beautiful wife Kathy's over there. I want to make sure everybody sees Kathy, so thank you, Kathy, for being here. But for the past 25, 30 years, what I have done is try to make lives better in Orange County. I've done many, many things from healthcare programs to the Sexual Assault Treatment Center to after-school programs to Juvenile Assessment Center to the Central Receiving Center, all targeted for issues that were brought forward, all using people in the community to come forward and help us, and all making people's lives better. As county mayor, you have the absolute perfect position to make them even better, and that's what I want to focus on. We're going to talk about transportation. We're going to talk about infrastructure. At the end of the day, though, it's what we are going to do to make the lives better of everyone in this community, and hopefully at the end of the day, today you'll know that I'm the person to do that. Thank you so much for having us, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Panapinto.
Well, thanks to Tiger Bay for having us, and always thanks to Pete and Jerry. We get to spend a lot of time with each other now. I am Rob Panapinto. I've lived in this community for 25 years now. I've been married to my wife, Stacy, for 27. We have two amazing teenage daughters. Allie, my oldest, is 16, is actually right there, so I'm glad that she's out here with me today. And my youngest daughter, Samantha, is 14. And I've lived my life in this community a little bit differently than the two gentlemen I share the stage with. I've spent my time here building businesses, creating thousands of jobs, and serving our community in a variety of nonprofit and civic roles. I was part of a small audio cassette manufacturing company that actually transformed itself into a healthcare technology company. We went from about 20 employees when I started to about 5,000 when we exited in 2011. And since that time, I have been investing and supporting other entrepreneurial companies and small businesses to help them grow their businesses. And I've been involved in many of the major issues that we face in this community through my roles at the Orlando Economic Partnership, the Chamber, the Central Florida Foundation, and other organizations. So I've dealt with issues around economic development, transportation, homelessness, affordable housing, many of the things we'll talk about today. And it is obvious to see the things that are special and wonderful about this community. But we also have some real challenges around wages, around affordable housing, around transportation and growth, around public safety, and a host of poverty issues that we need to address if we're going to achieve the bright future I think all of us see for ourselves, and that frankly I think we deserve. And to solve these issues, I think we need people now with broader expertise who, yes, have worked with government, but have been in the private sector, in the nonprofit sector, and can bring all these communities together and not spend their entire lives in government. I look forward to sharing more of our plans with you today, and I welcome you for having all of us here today, and look forward to the discussion. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And I should have mentioned beforehand that most every question I have came from members of Tiger Bay. You all were asked to submit when you RSVP'd, and I got dozens of them that were given to me. So virtually everything that's going to be asked comes from you guys. And we're going to start with one that a lot of people asked about, and one I know there's a clear dividing line. We're going to start with guns, and we'll start with you, Commissioner Clark. What do you think the role of government, specifically counties, is when it comes to gun regulations?
Yeah, that's a very emotional question, and I will start my answer with the fact that I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment. But there is a point that there needs to be a very cautious aspect to who has a firearm. Recently we did an ordinance that closed the so-called gun show loophole, which in essence, if you were a private citizen selling guns at a gun show or at another public venue, you were then subjected to the 3-day waiting period plus doing the background check. And that's nothing outside the norm, and I think we closed that. I think it was the right thing to do. But to really look deep into the gun issue, I think that we need to be very cautious about how we look at it statewide, because you can't just hop from county to county to county and find yourselves in trouble because their gun laws are different than yours. So as a county mayor, what I need to do is work with our legislative body and work with the folks who will be our legislative delegation, and let's do some sensible, very sensible measures that keep the guns out of the hands of the people that shouldn't have them. I think that is the key, and everything we have seen would lead us to that conclusion that certain people, something was missed, there was a mental health issue, there was no referral capabilities. So when these things are addressed, will we ever solve violence? Maybe not. But will we reduce it? I think we have an opportunity now in this country to reduce it, because the conversation is happening. This is a conversation that wasn't happening before these tragedies occurred. Now it's a conversation we can have with anyone at any time. You may not agree, but you can't get somewhere unless you can start the discussion, and we're at that point now. And I think as county mayor, we carry that discussion on, we carry it to the legislature, and we get sensible laws in this community, this state, and hopefully we can get sensible laws at the federal level.
Thank you, Mr. Pinto.
Yeah, I agree. This is a really emotional issue at the national level. And frankly, I think we should have a conversation about a constitutional right and the balance against public safety. I do think that the best place to have it, ideally for me, I'd have it at the national level. But if it's not at the national level, it should be at the state. I think at the county level, beyond what we've already done, look, we could drive 5 miles from here and be in another county. So I think this is an issue where county by county legislation just doesn't work, but the conversation certainly does need to have. And I think, again, both at the state and the national level, that's where I would suggest that we continue to have it. And I would suggest that we continue to have it. I think at the local level, though, certainly we have a responsibility around making sure that our schools are safe and that our community is safe. And those are things that certainly at the local level we can pay a lot more attention to and be very focused on. I mean, if you look at this situation a couple of weeks ago, where on the day of the Pulse anniversary, where that dad shot his 4 kids, I mean, there was a situation where that gun was originally legally obtained. And there we had a situation where someone had been through a series of domestic violence situations, and probably someone that maybe along the way we could have caught, similar to some extent what happened down in Parkland. So what are the tools we're using to make sure that we are taking guns out of the hands of people at the local level that should not have guns, or that they're getting the treatment that we deserve? That's where I think our focus is. In the case of this domestic violence situation, for example, there are innovative tools that are used elsewhere. Up in High Point, North Carolina, the Sentinel covered this a couple of weeks ago. There's a data analytics tool that actually I'm somewhat familiar with because it came through the social enterprise accelerator I run that might have caught this person earlier on. We're not using that here today, and I think it's something we should consider looking at. I know it's something that Mayor Dyer and the sheriff looked at in the past. So those are the things I think we should focus on here locally.
Sheriff Demings.
I'm not going to punt on this issue. I don't think that the total responsibility to have something change in our country with gun rights or gun control rests purely in Washington, D.C. I think some of that responsibility is right here at our local level. And I've been active. For me, in order to deal with the growing challenges that we have with gun issues here, and gun violence, is that we've got to take guns out of the hands of the wrong people. And so for the last 37 years, I have spent that time working on the streets of Orange County to take guns out of the hands of the wrong people. So law enforcement has to be appropriately staffed and funded in order to focus on that. And we use at the Orange County Sheriff's Office an approach where we have intelligence-led policing, where we try to identify the individuals who commit the violent crimes, and we track them. We've been very successful in reducing violent crime here in Orange County since I've been sheriff. It has gone down by 34%. But I also think that we have to have a serious conversation about a ban on assault weapons. As I see it, it's not a weapon that in a civilian populace should be out on the streets of Orange County. Thank you. I do think that we should be looking at restricting the sale of high-capacity magazine rounds to individuals. I do believe that we should increase the amount of funding that we put forward for mental health treatment. That is something that is scandalous, really, in our state of Florida, in which we rank flat last in terms of funding for mental health treatment. And I think that we have to work more closely with our youth-related organizations and schools to impact the decision-making that our youth use when they make the decision to pick up a gun and to get involved in violence itself. And so through our programs, we have tried to support our local programs in those efforts. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I want to ask one quick follow-up, because one of my goals here is to let everybody have very specific things. I think we were able to extrapolate this, but on the vote that the county just took on closing the gun show loophole, obviously Commissioner Clark voted for it, but you are a yes vote, Sheriff, on that?
Yeah, that's absolutely.
And Mr. Panapinto?
I support what the county ultimately did. I was concerned initially that it was going to end up leading to a lawsuit at the state level, but I think the way it was actually structured, where it became more of a constitutional issue, I support the end result of what happened, yes.
Okay, I think that's a yes. All right, another question from a Tiger Bay member sitting at around 11 o'clock came in today, has to do with wages. When it comes to wages, Orlando ranks at the bottom, often dead last, you may be noticing a theme here, among major cities in America. This question has two parts. Number one, why do you think it is that we are dead last for wages? And number two, what specific steps would you take to attract higher paying jobs? Mr. Panapinto.
I talk about this all the time, and I would argue that actually basically every other problem we have in this community probably stems from that, because if people are making less money, obviously they have trouble affording other things for themselves, including basic needs, and government has less money, because if you think about we make our money through property taxes and sales tax. So look, there's no doubt that wages are affected partially by the industries that tend to be predominant here in our service industries. And I think the solution is to continue to diversify this economy. We were able, in my example, we were able to build a successful business up to 5,000 jobs, 1,500 of which here in Orlando, with a wide variety of positions. And we need business leaders who can help us diversify into healthcare, into manufacturing, into technology. We make attempts at doing that today, but frankly, to some extent, they're half-hearted. We sprinkle a little dollar here, but have not really aggressively said that this is a strategic initiative that needs to be solved. And frankly, I do think part of that is because we've not had people who have been in the private sector and really understand the dynamics of moving an economy forward in places of authority and power. If a business owner comes down here and wants to expand, or one of our current business owners wants to grow, I think it's important that the person they're talking to, when they meet with a mayor, understands their challenges, can help them find the talent they need, understand how difficult it is to raise capital, and can help them move mountains to move their business forward. So there is a lot that can be done. And again, my concern, having been involved in almost every economic development organization in this community, is we work at it, we're well-intentioned, but it has not been a strategic imperative for this community. And again, I argue some of it is because we just don't have people in the seats of government who really understand how to move an economy forward. And we have to. We absolutely have to, or we won't solve any of our other issues in this community.
All right, Sheriff, why do you think we're dead last, and what specific steps would you take to attract higher paying jobs?
I do think that the richer are getting richer sometimes in this community, and the poorer are getting poorer. So for me, it's all about leveling the playing field, and I do believe that we should increase the overall average wages in this community by further diversifying our economy. I believe that we have a tremendous opportunity to create pathways to the middle class for those who perhaps are low-wage earners by creating within their respective companies or businesses the opportunity to move up. So we want to make certain that they have access to skill trades training programs here in this area, mentorship programs. We want to make certain that they have access to perhaps starting their own business and creating a more of an entrepreneurial ecosystem here in this community where individuals can get access to capital. Perhaps they can participate in some of these incubator accelerator type programs. We know that, for example, with the University of Central Florida with the incubator program there, when for every $1 that's invested in those businesses that go through the incubator program, there's an $8 return on that investment. I believe that we have to look at improving the number of STEM-based jobs here in this community, the science, technology, engineering, and math-related businesses here in this community. We should have better linkage between the different, I'm going to say, silos within our technology-based businesses. One of the things that I will do is appoint what I'm going to call a tech czar, for the lack of a better word, a person that will be on point for business development related to improving that within our community. And lastly, we will work with our local school district and our vocational education programs and our unions even to create these pathways to the middle class that I'm talking about by improving job skills.
Thank you. And I want to make sure we didn't overlook the first part about why do you think we are dead last in wages?
I think we're dead last in wages because our economy is largely a service-based economy, and we have not done the best job of individuals who work in that industry creating these pathways that I'm talking about here.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Clark.
Okay, thank you. When you talk about the average wage, if we move the average wage, we may move people into better paying jobs or create better paying jobs. We're not moving the people who are mired in those jobs that are creating that average. And I think that that's something that we never need to lose sight of. I can look at my district, Rico Tile, Cree Bakery, Ambrose Printers, Shannon's Casual Cafe, small businesses that are making it. They're making it because they have a vibrant economy here. Orange County has spent much money on economic development. We have funded many projects. I think we have gone over and above what we might have really done, but in the end of the day, it pays off. We save from the BRAC Commission, we spend a lot of money to save our simulation industry. So to say that we're not doing it, we are truly doing it. But where I have the issue is the people we're going to leave behind. We can bring in all the high-paying jobs in the world, but if we're not paying attention to people who are still mired in the low-paying jobs, I don't think we've done our job, and we haven't done it properly. So one of the questions I think that you provided us, when you sent your 15 questions, was that, what would you look at doing? And to really look at the convention area and down there, is wouldn't it be wonderful if the Orlando College, the OCPS College, could set up a branch down there and do trade training, do trades, so that people could move from those lower paying jobs in the hospitality industry to trades, which are going wanting. I mean, we can fill trade jobs. I have a plumber, a Harvey Baker plumbing in my district, $80,000 a year for 2 plumbers. I mean, and that's a pretty good living. So I think we need to move the needle to where people who are mired in those jobs can also move that average up. Not just be a part of that average, but I'll be a part of moving that average up, and I think that's what government needs to do.
Okay.
Scott,
All right.
can I comment?
You're breaking protocol.
I know, but I was sort of referenced. Can I?
I think, why don't you save it for the next time?
Okay.
You can add it on to your last one. Otherwise, all hell's going to break loose. All right. This is a follow-up to the last question. Sheriff, we're going to start with you. Each year, Orange County collects more than $250 million in hotel taxes, most all of which is spent promoting more tourism, things like Visit Orlando, sports venues, and the convention center. There's been talk of diversifying that spending on things like transportation and public safety. Do you believe hotel tax spending should be diversified, and if so, would you push to make that happen?
It is a tourist development tax, and by definition, it is designed to develop the tourism business and to increase it. So I want to be really clear here, because sometimes people say, well, you're saying different things here. Currently, the law in Florida allows the tourist development tax funds to be spent in certain purposeful ways to market our tourism and to invest in some venues here. And I believe that that is an appropriate use of the funds today. In order to have sustainability in our community, that is where we make decisions today that are best practices for us now. We do not want to make decisions that adversely impact us in the future. And so this is a complex issue. Unless the law changes with the Florida legislature, we are prohibited from using TDT monies for things such as public safety. When I look at the spectrum of local government, the use of TDT really is like a pressure release valve for the rest of the budget within the county, because We don't have to worry about the infrastructure and the community venues like the Performing Arts Center and how we're going to pay for it, and the expansion of the Citrus Bowl and some other things that we have used the monies for to create additional convention visitors here. With having 72 million visitors here in Orange County last year, I believe that's a good thing, with 38 million people coming through our airport. All of that means that monies are coming into our community. And so as mayor, I certainly will continue to focus in those areas. But at some point in the future, will we have to have a conversation about the further expansion of the use of TDT funds? Perhaps that's something that I'm not going to shut down now, because I don't know in terms of the priorities. What I can tell you is this: every special interest group out there wants more money today, and how do we provide those funds from government-based revenues is really the question.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Clark. TDTs.
Okay, thank you. Right now we're collecting about $280 million. The sixth penny, of course, goes to the Amway and to Visit Orlando. The fifth penny goes to the Convention Center. And then we have the arts funding and the sports venues. So when it's all said and done, what's remaining is the amount that we need to do the vision planning and the plan down at the convention area. And it's going to be half cash funded. I think is an extraordinary thing when government can half cash fund such a large CIP project. But the money is $280 million. You know, in the context of the entire county budget, you know, it's not huge, but the legislature, we have seen in the last two sessions, has taken a different approach on the use of these funds. And, you know, we all went through the inquisition with the CFHLA, and that's one thing I said, and maybe, you know, I said that, you know, we need to be ready, because change is coming. You know, change is coming, and you can feel that there is a need for this money. And like Indian Lagoon, who would have thought that this money would have gone to clean up Indian Lagoon? But you can make the nexus to tourism. So I think that if we're not ready to look at what will, in all likelihood, come from our legislative body, that these funds will be loosened up, we're doing a disservice to everything we're funding now. Now, Orange County bought the debt down from the city. It's very manageable. It was a really good financial transaction. So the city doesn't really have to worry about the debt on it. We refinanced it. We're doing great with that. So what we need to look at is not to get into recurring costs with that piece of money that's sitting out there. If we could do infrastructure needs, if we could look at things that could relieve some of our road projects, but don't do recurring, because, you know, one incident somewhere could turn this thing around, and the revenues would dry up. So we've got to be very circumspect with it. But I fully expect the day is coming where we're going to be looking at different uses for the TDT.
All right, Mr. Panapinto, and you can use your 2 minutes however you like.
Well, I certainly will answer the question. I think it does tie to the other one. I think that the tourist development tax, I agree, Tallahassee is moving the needle a little bit, and we will, I think, continue to respond to that. And I think what has happened locally here, we have had somewhat of a broad interpretation of exactly what tourism dollars are, which has helped us build the venues, which has helped us drive economic development in some areas around Paramore and Westlake that need to be developed. So those venues, while paid for TDT, do have ancillary benefits for us, and I think that's true in the arts and in philanthropy as well. And I think as long as we can continue to drive and have interactions with the TDT tax to use it in a broad way, then I think that's a positive for our community. To my other point earlier, again, this issue of how much we spend in economic development today and the strategic imperative, I don't think we're there. I think we spend less than $1 million today on economic development. And when you look at opportunities in Orange County a few years ago, for example, to bring an advanced manufacturing sensor plant here called Bridge. Thank God it's now in Osceola County. But that should have been in Orange County. And that was a decision that was made, and there was some risk associated with it. But those are some of the big decisions that I think we need to make if we're going to really move the needle. Saying we've put $10,000 into this incubator, or we've given $25,000 here, or $50,000 here, yeah, that makes us feel like we're saying we're doing something, and we're trying. But it is not equal to the task. And so, yes, we're trying, we have good intentions, but if we're really going to change the dynamic here, then we need to put a stake in the ground and have it be a real focus. put some real dollars behind it, because private dollars will follow public commitment and public dollars. And no, I don't think we're doing that today in a meaningful way.
All right, thank you. All right, this next question is verbatim from a Tiger Bay member, and I have to tell you I like it because it's potentially awkward. So, and just to give you a heads up, Commissioner Clark, we're going to start with you. What is the biggest difference between your type of leadership and that of our current mayor? And you have to be in a meeting with her next Tuesday.
Yeah, I know. I should go sit right next to her. Yeah, I think that there's a distinct difference, and it's kind of a distinct difference, I think, between, if you looked at our careers and how we have been, I think, accessible to the community. I'm an extraordinarily accessible person. I'm out there every day in every way. I give out my cell phone number to anybody and everybody. And I say, call me, text me, and I will get back to you within 24 hours, if not sooner. I think that type of management style is one differentiation. And I'm not the kind of manager who will get deep into the weeds unless I absolutely have to. And I think that sometimes that might happen, because things happen, but you surround yourself with very talented people, and I have a very talented group of people who'd love to come to work with us when we're mayor. And so you have more time to be out and about. And I'm not saying, at rubber chicken events and the dress up events. I'm saying drop in at neighborhood meetings, drop in at the safe neighborhoods, and drop in places where you can really connect with the citizens you represent and find out what's on their mind. Just take a direct time and chat with them and say, okay, what's going on? What's going on in your neighborhood? And I love doing that. I've been doing that for the last 6 years, and I will continue to do that as mayor. So I think that's probably one of the differences, and I think that I got 30 seconds to come up with something else.
Can stop.
Keep talking, but I
Might
think that's the major differences. But she's laid a good framework for us to build on, and I'm gonna give her credit for that. And we're just going to move that forward, and we'll move in a different direction in a different way. I think with my ability to bring people together and be in the community and just be out there every day in every way.
Thank you, Mr. Panapinto.
These two gentlemen probably work with Mayor Jacobs on a day-to-day basis much more closely than I do. My sense, however, of the mayor is that she is absolutely extremely detail-oriented, and I think she's very thoughtful and cautious in her thinking. Coming from the private sector, I do tend to look at things a little bit differently. One, you have to do things in the private sector through collaboration, but also be decisive. So for me, executive leadership is also listening to people, not thinking you're the smartest person in the room, getting great feedback, and then making a decisive decision, right? So don't be afraid to listen, but at some point you have to move on. I do think, going back to my earlier point, even about using Bridge as an example, I think that from my perspective, I think you do have moments in time where you have some big strategic decisions to make. In the course of a business, those moments happen, and you need to be able to pull the trigger and make those moves, understanding that there is some risk associated with it. And I think that's the type of leadership that I would bring to this county. For me, it is not about what my reelection campaign will look like. I have openly said to people that some of the things that we're talking about are generational changes. So if I'm fortunate enough to win and then run 4 years from now, I'm not sending you a direct mail piece saying I've checked the box on diversifying our economy or solving affordable housing. They're likely not to be solved until even the next mayor after me. But that doesn't mean you don't govern that way or think in a much longer term process. And that, which isn't a reflection on the current mayor, but just more the philosophy that I would think about things. I'm thinking about things in a 25, 50-year journey that if we don't start on today, will make it harder and longer for us to ultimately get to.
And Sheriff Dimmings.
My leadership style is one more of a visionary type leader. A visionary is someone who anticipates the need for something before it's needed, and they take action in a timely manner. And so for me, throughout my career, I've had these tremendous opportunities to be developed to the point where I can be considered a serious candidate to be Orange County mayor. Now, what you will get from me is this, is that I'm used to laying out the vision for my personnel, but because I manage a decentralized operation, I set the tone, I give the direction, and then I get out of the way and I let my people take care of what needs to be done. Sometimes those decisions that I've had to make have been life or death decisions, where I sit on a command post and I make some decisions about parameters by which we may use deadly force. But I'm not the deputy sheriff or police officer that gets deployed, that gets to make the final decision about pulling the trigger to killing someone or using deadly force. So in terms of government, what I would do is empower my personnel to make some decisions and execute the broad vision that I have and get out of their way. That's the only way that when you have a robust government the size of Orange County government, you can manage that operation. You have to trust your people that they have the competency and the skill set to do the job. And so that's something that I'm very, very accustomed to doing. But I will pivot a bit here and say that my experience is one, both of business and government. I'm running to be the mayor to run the local division of government, the Orange County government itself. And so while I have some business background, I have an MBA, I have a bachelor's in finance, I worked in business before I ever went into government, I am now a government expert, and I am well trained to be able to manage the local county government because of the sum total of my experiences and training.
All right, thank you. Now, so far, you guys have done pretty well answering Bertika's prayer to be nice. I'm going to see if we can change that. And this is a question that comes from a Tiger Bay member that is very relevant to this crowd. It's about politics. And I believe we're at Mr. Panapinto. We're going to start with you. Obviously, this race is technically nonpartisan, at least to the extent that there won't be an affiliation listed on the ballot and that there aren't rules about what you can say. But do you really believe this race is nonpartisan, and do you think it should be?
I absolutely think it should be. And as a first-time candidate who has not been a creature of party, I mean, the first time I walked into a Republican or a Democratic meeting was associated with this campaign, to be honest. So to me, it has been refreshing that it has been a nonpartisan race, because I have been able to walk into every room in this county and not have some percentage of the crowd, because they perceive I'm wearing an R or a D on my jersey, turn away. And that, at the local level, to me, is extraordinarily valuable. My beliefs are my beliefs, and my core convictions are my core convictions. And you can argue whether they lean one way or another. I have people that come up to me, "You're a Republican?" And then I have other people come up to me and go, "Aren't you a Democrat?" So to me, at the local level, these issues are about community. And I've loved the fact that this has been a nonpartisan race. And I think that's why, if you look at our supporters, we have such a broad range of support, because we have been able to have conversations with parts of this community that I am pretty sure, unfortunately, in this political environment, would not have allowed me potentially to even come to talk to them, or wouldn't have even allowed me the opportunity or listen to what I was saying. I mean, when I spoke to for example, the UCF Young Democrats, probably by their charter in a partisan race, they wouldn't even let me come. But I got to spend an hour with them and listen to them. So I love the fact that these are nonpartisan races. We try to keep things as nonpartisan as we can. Recognize, again, I have certain core beliefs which align with, in certain ways, with certain parties. But gosh, let's not change these things, because it sparks dialogue and conversation that, frankly, we could use at the national level. If we could get Democrats and Republicans and NPAs in rooms together to talk about solving problems, I think we'd be a lot further than we are at the national level. So let's make sure we're keeping that locally.
Sheriff Timmons, do you believe the race really is nonpartisan, and should it be?
I think it really works either way, to be honest with you. I wish, Scott, that people like you and other members of the media would allow this race to be a nonpartisan race. But the fact of the matter is, you don't. Whenever you talk about this race, you brand us one way or the other. You lead by saying Jerry Demings, the Democrat, and the others as Republicans. But if we all are honest about our personal beliefs and feelings, we are probably all somewhere in the center. We don't believe 100% of the ideology of any particular party, but we're somewhere in the middle. But unfortunately, in the world of politics today, you will be sitting on the sidelines if you were not aligned with some major party. That's the reality of it is. However, I've been elected 5 times at this point, 3 general elections and 2 primaries in a partisan race. And I've always gotten bipartisan support because in the administration of my duties, I don't care whether you're a DRNR. I just care whether or not you're citizens of Orange County. And I will provide the type of service, the type of oversight to you, because that's the true call of government, is to take care of the people. But unfortunately, we've gone down this path now as a nation, and it's sad. It's sad to me when we look at the partisan politics at the national level, at the state level, and for individuals, for a guy that has worked now in municipal government, worked in county government, been active in state government, and been active in the federal government itself, I can tell you that at all levels, partisan politics plays a role in the decision-making of the decision makers in those organizations.
I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't ask one follow-up here. Aren't you involved in a lawsuit to keep the races partisan?
Yes, because I will tell you this. It really isn't about keeping the race partisan. There were some other issues in that ballot initiative as well that imposed term limits and other things. I am sworn to uphold the Constitution and government of the United States of America, as well as of the state of Florida. The process that Orange County used in 2014 regarding the ballot initiative, at least at the trial level, the judge ruled that it was in violation of the state constitution. At the appellate level, they have ruled that it was in violation of the state constitution. And now it's going to the Florida Supreme Court. And so I stand up for what I believe is right. In the words of Dr. King, he said that the true measure of a man is not where he stands during moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands during times of challenge and controversy. And so I stand up for that Constitution. I don't just say that I do. I will demonstrate that we will stand up for it. And that, Scott, was a partisan strike in this county.
And Commissioner Clark.
Yeah, back in 2014 when this occurred, there was also a ballot initiative to make this race and the commission races partisan. That was voted down because people want nonpartisan races at local government, and I think that is the only way to do this and do it fairly. The odd thing about the lawsuit is the judge figured that, well, let's do a King Solomon here. Half of it's right, half of it's wrong. So which half is right, which half is wrong? So, you know, I think the right thing to do, there's 200 and some odd thousand people who can't vote in those races. They have to wait for people to come forward and then say, well, okay, choose from these two. You have absolutely no say in placing on that ballot. And I think that's entirely wrong at the local level. State and federal, yeah, I mean, it's so messed up, so why not be partisan? Because, you know, God only knows, maybe you can get a third party. But, you know, if you look at my record, you know, prior to being elected, as an elected official, I think I'm probably the most nonpartisan person you're going to find. I have really, really tried, and I have succeeded in just being a commissioner for everybody. And I don't like labels. I think they just cloud the issue. You're right, they cloud the issue. You know, it's about what you can do to that person that's standing in front of you and what you can do for that person standing in front of you. And they don't care, you know, what Bill Cowles has you registered as. They care about what their problem is and what's affecting them that day. And that's kind of the beauty of the local races being nonpartisan, because anybody can vote, everybody can vote, and you can get the right person in there that will do it in a nonpartisan fashion. I don't run up to somebody and say, well, I'm a Democrat or Republican, so I'm going to fix that pothole better. You know, we're just going to fix the pothole. So, and the bridge, I want to just mention that had I been mayor, we'd have had the bridge here. And it wasn't so much a money issue, it was some other issues. But, you know, those things are lost sometimes. But we did get the Amazon Fulfillment Center with no bounty. All we had to do is build a road quicker, so it can be done. But let's keep it nonpartisan, and hopefully the Supreme Court will allow all local races to be nonpartisan.
So largely agreement there. It would be interesting to see if we ever see that push at the state and national level. I've yet to hear that from even the people who support it at the local one. But the next question is going to be for Sunrail. It has to do with Sunrail, and I know you all have ideas on this. All three have said you want to expand Sunrail in one way or another. How do you want to expand it, and how do you want to pay for it? I believe we are at Sheriff Dimmings.
We have to improve capacity and connectivity. If we want to get people to ride Sunrail, at this point, it's not robust enough to get people to ride it and get out of their cars. The hours of operation need to be expanded. I believe that this southern leg that will extend into Osceola County is going to help increase both capacity and connectivity. But until we connect it better with, perhaps in the future, with light rail, with rapid transit, with our bus transit lanes, we should have dedicated bus transit lanes in this community so that our buses can arrive on time and in a timely manner as they connect with Sunrail. I believe that we have to also look at how it interacts with new transportation ideas like Uber and Lyft in this community as well. But long term, I think if we do not solve the transportation challenges that we have here, we're not going to be able to solve the affordable housing crisis that we have. We're not going to be able to get people into centers of commerce as efficiently as they could. And so I do believe that there's a tremendous opportunity here for us to lobby to get our tax dollars from Washington, D.C. to come back in to invest in creating additional legs. And I think there are entrepreneurial opportunities along those various routes of the future legs or substations associated with Sunrail that will create business opportunities so that the private investors will be interested in developing projects along those extended lanes or connectivities within the community.
Okay. Commissioner Clark, how do you want to see it expanded and how do you want to pay for it?
I was at the opening of the Meadowwood Station this past weekend and had the opportunity to talk to people who in Meadowwoods, this may be something that can really be kind of a game changer for them because it's located between a school, the station, and then just hundreds and thousands of homes that people might be able to use Sunrail at some point to get to work. So what we need that all-out effort to connect it to the airport through the multimodal center and then down to the convention district and further down to more of the job centers. And it's easy to say, let's do it, but how do you pay for it? How do you pay for it? This is hundreds of millions of dollars. And wouldn't it be an interesting discussion to have with the CFX, with the Toll Road Authority to see if maybe some tolls could be used to prop some of this up because it's all about transportation. And we've been paying tolls on part of the 408 for 40 years now, so maybe there's a couple nickels we can rub together and use it for some other transportation processes. But we've had private people come in wanting to build rail. Maglev was an example from the airport to the convention center. And for whatever reasons, it just never got off the ground. That's supposed to be a joke, Maglev. But anyway, get it off the ground. But it never really came to fruition, but it was such a wonderful opportunity. And this was privately funded. This is going to be privately funded. The same group, and it's a group out of Spain, is looking at light rail from the airport, or a light rail project from the airport probably down to the convention center. And then if we could connect the convention center, and what a good use of TDT money down there to create a system of trams and rail down there. But the last mile is the issue. BRT lanes, bus rapid transit lanes, incorporating Uber, Lyft to that last mile, propping up links, getting better routes off of the stations, the Sunrail stations. Because east-west we have huge problems. We can get you to DeBerry, and now we can get you down to Kissimmee, but we can't get you out east and west. So we need to solve those. We're building some new terminals for links. I think we're really going to prop up links, get some new buses, smaller buses, and over time we'll make it work.
All right, Commissioner, you can find some solace in knowing that you got one hearty laugh from Bill Brooks. I don't know if he's been drinking, but he laughed at your joke.
He wants to cross-connect.
Yeah. Mr. Panapinto.
Yeah, I think first of all, we need to elevate the conversation. I think we need to stop talking about Sunrail or links or the roads in isolation. I think every conversation needs to be had in concert as to how they all work together. Because strategically, we're really talking about how people move essentially on land. And they all complement each other, and they all impact each other. And we have 7 transportation authorities in this community right now. And I think we can actually start to consolidate those organizations strategically and start to have a conversation around how bus, rail, and highway work more closely together. I also think if we really were bold about it, it's probably some dollars that are floating around in there in consolidation. I know that's complicated and would take state and probably federal engagement, but Pete mentioned the toll roads, and I agree with that. But gosh, that was a conversation that was had 5 years ago, and we're still having it. So I really think we need to elevate the conversation around transportation in general here. If you look at Amazon, one of the reasons that we didn't get it was definitely the transportation network and the challenges moving around this community. So I want to elevate the conversation, which I think would make it a lot easier for us to find funding, and also have, I agree, those last mile conversations around Uber, around links, around rapid transit bus lines, around how we expand the expressway authority, and how we more effectively move people throughout this community. But again, let's stop talking about this stuff in silos as if rail and bus and cars don't have anything to do with each other. They absolutely do. It's how we all get around every day. So I think we can address the problem, but again, let's broaden the conversation and think about it a lot more strategically.
All right, I'm going to use a moderator's privilege and use a couple of quick hit rounds here. Do 30-second responses to questions that I think you all have tackled before. This one goes to Pete Clark first. Red light cameras. Keep them, kill them, change them.
If they cannot prove to me that they have served their purpose, kill them. I do not like them. I worry about every time I go through one. I know I made it, but I'm waiting for the mail. And I think that the cameras are not, and if you look at the data behind it and the number of tickets that you have to look at, the hundreds of thousands of tickets to actually get 1,000 that may be right, is really kind of wasteful. And I think we spend more of that money on probably putting officers on the street and have a presence there and make people slow down to red lights. But cameras are not infallible, and I'm not a huge fan of them.
And have you all voted on keeping them or killing them? Okay. All right. Mr. Panapento, keep them, kill them, change them.
Yeah, I think if we could make them foolproof and effective, I might be supportive of them. But the way they work right now, I think there's a real challenge both around the safety and frankly the process. So the way things are stand right now, as I said in my response to you, I'm not supportive of them.
Sheriff Demings.
I would keep them. I believe that they have been effective at changing driver behavior.
Fair enough. All right, we're starting Mr. Panapento, another quick one. Name something you've done in your professional career, one thing that you can point to and say, see, that is why I should be the next mayor of Orange County.
Well, I talk about diversifying the economy. So, I mean, if you look at the company that we built, we went, again, from 20 employees to 5,000, and we did it with moving people across a wide spectrum of jobs and opportunities. Yes, we had some entry-level call center jobs, and we had very high-level technology jobs as well. But even the folks that were in our call center, we created career paths for them. They became managers. Most of our business moved into health insurance. They became licensed insurance agents. We moved people from $10, $11 an hour up to $17, $18, $19, $20 an hour. That's the type of business and the type of processes and the types of things we need to do to really change this economy.
And, sorry, Mr. Demings, Sheriff Demings. Sounds like I've been drinking.
Okay. Repeat the question one more time.
Yeah, I got one thing where you could say, see, that is why I should be the next mayor of Orange County that you've accomplished.
Because I have provided drama-free leadership during the good times and the bad times in this community, and you've seen that.
And Commissioner Clark.
I'm drama-free myself, but I will point to a healthcare crisis that occurred almost 20 years ago. We were asked to solve it. We created what's called the Primary Care Access Network. It was 5 clinics, 50,000 patients at that time. Today it's 11 clinics, over 100,000 patients a year. There's an individual in this room, if you ask him, he will tell you today he still goes there because we saved his life. So how do you put a price tag on a life? And that was a problem. We brought the hospitals in, we brought the medical community in, we brought the dental community in, we brought everybody in. We got around the table, we had the discussion, and we created a system that is now almost 20 years old in this community where people have access to health care.
We're going to continue on quick hits, and I want a yes or no on some tax issues that everybody in this room is going to have on their ballot this year. There are 2 of them, and I think you've discussed them before. I'm going to ask you how you plan on voting on these 2 things or whether you support them, and then you can explain them afterwards. But first, there is going to be on the ballot one to continue collecting property taxes for schools. Do you plan on voting for or against that, Sheriff Demings?
I will vote for it.
Commissioner Clark?
I'll vote for it.
Mr. Panapento?
So would I.
All right. And the other one is a homestead exemption by the legislature. Sheriff Demings?
I went first the last time. But.
Drama-free, please. Let's just...
All right. I'll vote for it.
Commissioner Clark,
I'm going to vote for it.
Mr. Panapinto.
Oh, you made some news here today based on your written answers previously. I am absolutely supportive of approving Amendment 1.
I do think that might have been different. All right, and do you want to elaborate a little bit on, when we'll go start at the other end, do you want to offer any thoughts on why you're going to vote for or against either of those things?
Well, my feeling
Actually,
on...
everybody's going to vote for all of them, so.
Okay. Well, first of all, I got to go back to drama. Allie, would you find me overly dramatic? Yeah, so...
Don't you control her allowance or something? I mean, what's she...
Well, that's
what is
true.
she
I do have
gonna
some
say?
leverage. Listen, on Amendment 1, again, one of the things I'm always concerned about is obviously is wages in this economy. So if we're going to give people the opportunity to put some more money in their pockets in a community that needs more money in their pockets, I'm gonna support it. And I think I've looked at the numbers. There is growth enough in Orange County to absorb this increase in the homestead exemption, and that's why I'm absolutely positively supportive of it.
Anybody else want to add anything else?
One of the first ordinance I got passed as a county commissioner was to implement the homestead exemption for seniors. It was, I think, the last round of, maybe been the last round of the CRC, but I got my commissioners to support it. It was an additional $25,000 for seniors who had been in their home for many, many years. So, Lord, yes, I'm going to support homestead exemption, especially for seniors. And as far as the school board money, you know, it's gone to very, very good uses. And I think with the issues with safety and with our half-cent sales tax, we have a golden opportunity here to make our schools extraordinarily safe and have the processes in place to weed out the folks that need our special attention.
Sheriff Demmings?
I do think that we have challenges here because I can tell you again from talking and meeting with all of the various special interest groups here, it's not one of them has come to me and said that we need less money. Every one of them wants more money. And how do we balance that? By the homestead exemption is going to create additional pressures there. But, you know, I've softened a bit on my approach there with it. I think that we have the opportunity to look within Orange County government to look for inefficiencies that we could use to fill up the gap.
And I should say, in fairness, the more I thought about that, I believe there are 2 homestead exemption issues that are on the ballot this year. I was referring to the one that the legislature passed for local governments that we had talked about before. So, yes. Okay. All right. And the last question, I said before, when you get me, you may not get good, but you'll get fast. And I want to make sure you are done on time. The last question before we go to closing statements has to do with links. We are one of the largest communities with a transit system that does not have a dedicated funding source. Do you believe we should have a dedicated funding source? And if so, where should it come from? And I believe we're at Mr. Panapinto.
I'm going to give the same answer I gave to Sunrail. I don't think we should have that conversation in isolation. I want to have that conversation across Links, Sunrail, and the Expressway Authority. Let's look at how we can creatively and more strategically move those organizations together. Let's see the impact on funding, and then look at how we fund these different resources. But I don't think we are not served well looking at these things in isolation anymore. Let's look at them together.
Sheriff Demmings, Links.
I do think that we should look at some type of dedicated funding source for transportation to address the issues here. What that is going to be, I can't say today, but perhaps a fractional sales tax that could be used to address the issues with traffic congestion. I know that that's a significant challenge for everybody in this room.
And Commissioner Clark.
You know, the dedicated funding is just it's a code word for tax, and it's generally an infrastructure tax or a road tax. And I don't know if that's the way to do it, and I think that we may agree on something that you have to have the larger discussion. I'm on Metro Plan. I'm the co-chair of Metro, the vice chair of Metro Plan, and we have these kind of discussions that this system is so fragmented that I don't know if one dedicated source to one entity would solve enough of it to make it really, really work. Right now, the dedicated funding is there from Orange County, from the city of Orlando, and I think with the economic outlook, if they need a little bit more money, we can prop it up for now, but we need to have a really serious discussion.
Thank you. All right, and I think we're going to move to closing statements, and I skipped one time, so I believe, Commissioner Clark, we are at you for closing statements. You each have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you very much. It's good. You were kind to us today, and I'm surprised. No, you're quite nice. But Really, it's really been a good discussion, I believe. And, to be your mayor and to be an effective mayor, I think you need to look at past performance. And I think my track record as a commissioner has been very, very good. It's been impeccable. I've really tried to be a commissioner that knows their district. And I just, rattled off the names of a bunch of businesses and people that we impact on a daily basis. There's not a day go by or week goes by that we don't get something from someone saying, can you help us with X, Y, or Z? And I think that just transcends to a higher level. With the mayor, you surround yourself with extraordinary talent, and you be that person for the people. And one of my mottos in the campaign is people, not politics, and I subscribe to that. But over my career, I've done a lot in the community: AIDS Resource Alliance, Primary Care Access Network. I mean, the list goes on of not-for-profits that I've actually worked in and actually hands-on, not from a funding standpoint, but actually, gotten in there and worked to build things. The West Orange Health Alliance took us 8 years. We built a 26,000 square foot clinic in East Winter Garden when nobody else would touch it. And I think that's just examples of what I can do, bringing folks to the table and bringing people together to address issues and not give up. Bring them to completion, bring them to fruition. Being the mayor is a difficult enough job, but you have to have, I think, the capabilities to do it. I have that. I've managed large departments too, multi-million-dollar budgets, 1,000 employees. I've done it without drama. I've done it without hiccups. We budgeted precisely. We never turn money in. We spend what we say we spend, but we don't over budget. And that's the way you run a government. And this is a huge, huge government. It's not a business. We use business principles, but 24/7, 365 days a year, this is a government. We have a fiduciary relationship with you, the taxpayer, with you to do it right and to do it with your money and do it correctly.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Panapinto.
Well, thank you very much for coming today. I agree this was a great conversation. I will say the one topic that we did not get to address here today, which is a major issue in this community, is affordable housing. And so hopefully there'll be another opportunity for us to talk about this because, again, if you don't have a great job and you don't have a great place to live, everything else pretty much falls along the wayside. So I know Scott did ask us that question, and certainly there are answers to our plans, but this community needs a continued conversation around affordable housing in a very meaningful way and in a very, very aggressive way starting now. I came here 25 years ago for the same reason I think most of you probably came here who weren't born here, and why people continue to come here. They continue to see this as a place of opportunity and a place to build a better life. And when you hear us talk about some of these issues, it is clear there's so much about this community that still is that place, but some real issues that if we don't solve, it's not going to continue to be that place. And it's not going to be the place where our children want to raise their families. And that's a real genuine concern, and I hear it all across this county as we knock on doors and we talk to people and we talk to different interests. And some of the things we've talked about today, again, you get the sense we've been talking about them for a while. And I think we've reached a point where we need to move with new and different ideas, with folks who have a broader skill set and can work to bring the expertise and the discipline of the private sector and the nonprofit sector in partnership with government to be able to move these issues forward because they need to be solved. Our community deserves us to do that. This is one of the youngest communities in the state. It warrants us being one of the great communities of the 21st century. But we have to resolve these issues. So I thank you for listening to the three of us today. I hope certainly you will consider supporting me, and hopefully all of you will turn out to vote on August 28th. Thank you very, very much.
And Sheriff Dimmings.
I love my community, and I hope you love this community as well. I am running to be the next mayor of Orange County. The sum total of my experiences, my training, having served you now in this community for 37 years, from being the Orlando Police Chief to being Deputy County Administrator to being the Orange County Sheriff for the last decade. I've had to deal with a lot of things in this community. I believe that out of the candidates here on this stage, I am the best prepared to hit the ground running from day one to be the 5th elected mayor in Orange County. I humbly ask all of you who are here today for your vote, on or about August the 28th. God bless you. God bless this great county of Orange.
Thank you, Sheriff. All right, I wanted to let you guys, grabbed my phone so I could check a fact, and while I got it, somebody texted me a picture of myself and said that I've had an ugly scowl on most of the day. I don't even know who it was. They're kind of an asshole. But anyway, here's a smile. I'm happy. That was supposed to be my poker face. I am happy that we have 3 solid candidates who are running for mayor of Orange County, and I want to give them a big round of applause for being here. I also want to let you know one other thing, because several of them mentioned this. I did ask them 15 questions. It was last month, and they took a lot of time to respond to it. It is longer, literally, than the book of Job. It is 3,000 words on our website going into This is not what generates clicks. This is probably why I'll lose my job at one point in time. But I believe it's a public service, so if you want to know more about these things that they're talking about, they all provided thousands of words, detailed answers about where they stand on these issues. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for having me, and I'll bring Matthew back up to finish up.
Don't leave yet. As you all know, it's a Tiger Bay tradition that those who ask the best questions get this tiger. We didn't ask any questions today. You get it. Thank you for being our moderator. Great job. All right. Our next event's the Judicial Forum with the OCBA July 12th at the Embassy Suites, different venue. And Orange County